Hello there, Dr. Charlie here. Welcome to today. Let's take 3 deep breaths and dive right in. You can enhance this practice by putting your fingers with some pressure on your finger on your cheekbones. I want you to breathe in, fill up your belly like a balloon, and breathe out. Do that twice more. Breathe in and blow out your balloon. One more time, I want your breath to reach the bottom of your belly. And breathe out. I am grading papers, honestly, for a class that I'm teaching on applied supervision as this is being taped. And the thought occurred to me how ill equipped we are, not as humans as a whole. There are many groups who do this well, but how ill equipped we are to really relate deeply to each other. And that this is exacerbated by our instantaneous technology right now. When I was a little girl, I used to watch sitcoms like many people do, and I was confused. Not that it wasn't going to happen, the working through of a problem or a disagreement wasn't going to happen in 30 minutes or 60 minutes, whatever it was. I knew that that was unrealistic and then that was TV. But what I didn't know, what I didn't understand, and was utterly confused by was that in real life, people are not so willing to try and work through their differences in a way that is meaningful for all parties. And in reading my students' responses, the topic was groups and groupthink, and their discussion questions are, what are the disadvantages? So the disadvantages were listed in the textbook, and they have to explain 2 of them and why they are a disadvantage to making a good decision. 2 disadvantages of groupthink. And it's just really crystal clear to me how we have so few skills, we have so few tools that effectively and adequately allow us to work through differences, difficulties, just the ways that 2 or more people really relate to one another in those deep and meaningful ways. Now, of course, there are people who are just not going to be your cup of tea. Those are not people you spend time with or want to spend time with. And at some point, we get thrown into groups of all sorts, and we have to relate to people. How do we do it? We mostly, at the moment, we really mostly do this like toddlers, at least in the United States. That is evidenced on kind of the world stage at the moment, with a very contentious election process happening, as well as deep, divisive words and behavior from many loud voices, I would say. How do we do that? How do we relate to one another in ways that make meaning? For me, I don't have all the answers. I do have some suggestions. For me, sharing a meal with someone is one of the most powerful ways to at least take a step toward bridging a divide. At least really deeply sense the other person's humanity, because we all need to eat. And having some willingness or some flexibility to maybe try something that the other person enjoys that I may not enjoy it. I may know with a fair degree of certainty that I'm not going to enjoy it. If I've never tasted it, though, I am more likely to try it. And I might say, oh, this is not, I don't like this. I didn't think I was going to like it, and I was right. But to give it a fair chance, to give it a try, to just see what this thing might taste like, to just see what this idea might taste like. And I think that what I would love to see in the moving forward of the United States is for everyone who is not a hermit. So maybe there are a few people who don't have to do this, although they probably also need it. But to really go through to figure out who are the people doing the work of humans relating to one another and able to bridge things that seem like impossible divides, able to sidestep chasms of ideology, of representation, of the way we think, feel, and move and ideate and create ideas out in the world. The people who are doing that work to really, that everybody needs to go through that everybody needs to first find their own sense of deeper humanity and connect it to someone that seems or we think appears to be so different from us that it is uncrossable, that the divide is permanent. And it almost never is, because things are always shifting, things are always changing, and that's true of people, that's true of ideas, that's true of energy. I think that we need to relax the idea that we have it all figured out and really take a more beginner's mind. That's a Buddhist concept. It's not only a Buddhist concept, but take a beginner's mind to really look at this with new eyes. What could we become? Who could we become as individuals? Do we want to be people who hate other people for reasons we can't really explain? Most of us have not really examined our deepest beliefs. Most of the things that people say on a regular basis have not been looked at and looked through thoroughly to even decide for ourselves if that thing is still true for us in this moment. The idea might be 20, 30, 50, 80 years old. Is it still true? Does it still ring the same that it did when we first heard it or took it in? And often we don't even know, we're not even aware consciously of the fact that most of the things that we're saying and ideating aren't ours. They don't belong to us. So what are these tools that really work for humans relating to one another in meaningful ways, in ways that are meaningful for all parties? So I invite you to examine that for yourself, and something that's causing you a lot of consternation, dive into it. Why do you think this way? What is it that you think? Can you articulate it? Why do you think this way? Where did it come from? Those might be two separate questions. Why do you think this way, and where did it come from? And decide if this thing is still true for you. Is this something that you believe? Can you take the extreme opposite view? What would that look like? Could you see how someone could believe that thing? Could you see how this could ring true for someone, maybe someone over there? It might be someone right here, right next to you, but it might be easier to look at that for someone over there. Where do we find these tools? I counter that generally it starts within ourselves, and that we have to do this work for ourselves, and there has to be a willingness to do the work. Now, maybe that's the sitcom fantasy that confused me so deeply. I was deeply, deeply confused by the fact that people were not willing to work through a problem, to even acknowledge a problem, like they were on TV when I was growing up. And TV is different now too. I don't have a whole lot of experience, but it's very intense. Television is very intense these days in ways that it was not as much before 20, 30 years ago. All right, y'all. Whew, whew, whew. That was bubbling up on my mind as I was grading papers. I'm going to get back to grading papers. And I wish you a meaningful day. Until we meet again, I'm Dr. Charli. Take great care.